Hey guys, it's Jay. Before we get into this episode, I just wanted to give a little bit of an intro to who Steve and Brandyn Gipe are. They're amazing friends of ours who are building a just an incredible nonprofit out in California that's going to serve trafficked boys between the ages of 6 and 18 and trafficked girls between the ages of 6 and 10. So obviously, as you can imagine, some of the content in this episode gets a little heavy, but if you can push through, what they're doing is amazing. Their stories are really cool, especially how different they are and how God really brought them together and what they're looking to do moving into the future as they fundraise and as they build this ministry out. And with that, we wanted to let you know too that when this episode drops, so if you're watching this right now, this episode is dropped. It's probably Wednesday. Today and tomorrow, all of the proceeds that we take in through coffee sales on our website, theporchny.com, is going to go to Cedar Refuge. So we're hoping to really help them kickstart a lot of their funding and fundraising. They have a $300,000 goal over the next year. So if you want more of their information at the end of the episode, they give their website and they give some of their social media so you can follow what they're doing and learn how you can give. But if you buy coffee today and tomorrow, so Wednesday of this episode dropping and Thursday, the day after, all of the proceeds are going to go to them. It's going to go to Cedar Refuge. We're not going to take any of the profit or any of that. It's all going to go to them. So just to let you guys know, the content gets a little heavy, but it's amazing. Their work's amazing. They're really doing, they're standing in the gap for a group of people, a demographic that is often overlooked with trafficked boys and kids. So we're going to get into it. That was a little long-winded on my side, but push through. It's going to be amazing. It's an incredible, credible story, and I'm really excited for these guys and what they're doing. Thanks, guys.
People just don't recognize that there's a need. There's a huge gap in recognizing the child's actually a victim, regardless of their gender. And it's kind of across the board. And then there's an issue with like stigmas and identification, as people don't know to ask, like, did something happen to you? Or gender stigmas. Yeah.
Welcome to Sacred and Strange.
All right, welcome to Sacred and Strange. My name is Jay. I'm your host, and I'm joined today by two amazing people. I'm looking at you guys, and we were just talking a little bit before we started recording, and I'm realizing, like, I'm sure I thought about it before, but how this is kind of like two worlds melded together, looking at you guys sitting on the chair, because I knew both of you in different seasons from different places. So it's just hitting me now, but yeah, we've got Steve and Brandyn Gipe on, who are incredible people, incredible, I would say pastors, lovers of people. Steve and I worked together at a place in Northern California. It was a school, boarding school for troubled teens. Steve was the first person I met actually when I interviewed. And I don't even know if you know this or not, but I said yes to the offer because of our conversation in the classroom. Because within the first 5 minutes, you were telling me about what it was like to work with these kids, and you started crying. And I was like, I want to work somewhere where people love people this deeply.
Oh,
And
I'm already getting emotional. We're like 2 minutes. I love that.
It was, I'd never experienced a place like that before, or people like that before. And that season marked me. And then Brandyn, you were in school with my wife. And then technically you were an intern when I was a student. And had tons of like great interactions, board game nights, hanging out. And then I don't remember how
I
specifically
remember
you ended up at the mountain, but I feel like we had a conversation once about like this place that I was working at, and it was like, you should
you got me the
and
job 100%.
I didn't know if it was me or Levi, because I think Levi was there at the same time.
Levi came, I think he came like 9 months after that, but no, literally I had graduated I had completed the ministry school program and finished my internship. And I was literally in this limbo where I was like, God, what's next? I just dedicated my last 3 years to school. And now that's over. Like, what are we doing? And I strongly felt that I was supposed to wait and quote, the next thing is going to fall into your lap. And I was like, okay. So I was waiting for whatever the job thing was, and my finances were getting lower and lower and lower. I was like, okay, Lord. And I go to, I think it was Levi's birthday party. And
Something like that, yeah.
yeah. And you sat next to me, and literally you were like, so what are you doing for work right now? And I like whipped my head at you, like, go on. And you were like, oh, I work at this place where a boarding school for troubled teens, and we're hiring staff. Are you interested? And then you kind of pitched it. You were like, they're animals and all this thing. And I was like, yes. I was like, tell me more. And so you got me an interview with them, and I got hired like within 2 weeks, I think. And it was the next 2.5 years of my life. Met my husband there, so yeah, huge thanks to Jay.
And we were all, you and, did you meet Erin in Northern California?
Yeah, well, we met in 2011 when we went to the school for that first year, and then we moved back. We'd been married for like 2 years, I think, when we moved back, and then met all you guys.
So all four of us, because Brandon came from LA, you came from New York, right?
Yeah.
I came from Ohio, and your wife, I don't know where.
Canada.
Canada. We literally came from three different directions, all into, it's crazy.
Gotta love Reading, right? It's just,
I know, it's very true.
It's just wild. It's just wild. We also got our first dog through Brandon.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Our Canyon boy.
Yeah.
We have a picture of him hanging in our hallway still.
Aww. I loved him. Aw. Yeah, he's a good dog.
He was great. But love you guys. Love what you guys are doing. We're going to talk a little bit later on about Cedar Refuge and what you guys are building. But why don't you give us a little bit about who you are? I mean, we got a little snapshot of Brandon's resume, work history there, but tell us a bit about who you are, where you come from, what you do.
Yeah. Can we start?
Yeah.
How far back do you want me to go? I can ramble for a long time.
How far back do you remember at this point?
Oh, that's good. My earliest memory is I was shocked that when I had to show people how old I was, I had to hold up 2 hands. So that would have been 6 years old. Yeah, I know, it's super random. So I grew up in Pennsylvania, and was there for like the first 13 years of my life. I was born into a very conservative church. I explain it. If you know Mennonite, that's probably closest, if not, than Amish, but it's very much less conservative than Amish. But it's called German Baptist, and I grew up in that church. So most people highlight areas like we had cars, but we didn't have a radio, we didn't listen to music, we didn't have TVs. My parents made their clothes. My mom wore a bonnet. So it's very similar to like what people see in really conservative Amish type community. So I grew up
wide-brimmed hats.
Wide-brimmed
And
hats.
like the beards with no mustaches.
Yeah, beards, no mustaches.
Man. I gotta see that rocked on your face.
I had one. I did.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
So the people that were like members of the church would adhere to certain rules, but the kids didn't have to. So for the first 13 years, I was raised by my parents, but it wasn't like right when I hit 13 or 12, my beard was growing out. It was nothing like that.
Goatee at one point.
Oh yeah.
Oh.
I should, yeah.
19.
Yeah, if we had those, that'd be great. I'm glad we don't.
There's a
So
we'll post those photos on the social media.
Yeah,
this episode,
like popping up on the screen right now while I'm talking. So at 13, I moved to Ohio, and so that's really the years that I remember. I was living in Dayton, Ohio area.
Why did you move to Ohio, though? I'd say
We moved.
that was a pretty significant turn of events.
Do you know why?
Yeah.
Oh,
yeah.
So we in Pennsylvania, I had there was a little turmoil within my parents. So my mom and dad had a great relationship with the Lord, and they know Jesus. And so we lived. I grew up more spirit-filled than my surroundings, because it was a super conservative church. There was less focus, I would say, on the Holy Spirit and more focus on law and
Like
following
legalism.
law, so legalism.
Yeah.
And so there was kind of a confrontation between those two worlds. And so in Pennsylvania, things would come up that were more legalistic than what my parents wanted to tolerate. And so yeah, around 13, there was inner turmoil there, and I think the final straw was actually crazy. Our furnace caught fire in our house in the middle of the night, and so I grew up in this amazing house. It was built so people crossed the Mason-Dixon line and built this house right after the Civil War. So it's a brick house, beautiful,
Like on a trail, like a train track, right?
right along a train track.
Where in Pennsylvania?
In Greencastle, which is right on the like right across the Mason-Dixon line, so right across from Maryland.
Was that where the
So
Bondurants
Hagerstown, Maryland was close.
was it by the Bondurants?
No, my
Okay.
mom grew up with the Bondurants in Virginia.
Have you ever
But
seen Lawless?
Yeah.
She grew up with those kids, like
With
in the
their
movie,
grandchildren.
with their grandchildren.
Yeah,
Okay,
yeah.
okay.
My grandpa
Like
grew up with
Montreal.
Like the
Wow.
Moonshiners.
Yes,
yeah.
the
Yeah.
the family that movie's based
Yeah.
off of.
And
Yeah.
there's a lot of
Wow.
stories there too, but
It's fascinating.
so anyway, I grew up in this house, and we find like musket bullets in the dirt around. Like it's fascinating.
Isn't that crazy?
That's cool.
And we had a tree house that was in a tree, and the tree house was like halfway onto the train track, and we'd sleep in this tree house, and trains in the middle of the night would go underneath the tree house. I remember it this way. My brother might be like, "Yo, it wasn't that close," but I do remember. I do remember.
I'm
it,
watching
like,
your face, and you're like there right now.
Oh, I am. It's great memories. And the train would go through in the middle of the night, and it would just like shake the treehouse. You could feel it like shaking the treehouse.
Okay.
Anyway, furnace caught fire, middle of the night. My dad, I remember actually really vividly. My dad was like shaking me awake, and I woke up to like smoke in the house, and I'm like, it's thrown off.
One of your
And my
brothers
dad woke my brother up and was like, there's a fire in the house. At that time, I grew up with 3 older brothers. It was just me and my brother in the house then. And we ran downstairs, and we're watching smoke like billowing out of the windows. And we're like, oh, where's Wes? And like nowhere to be found. This dude sleeps like you've never seen. He was woken up, knew there was a fire in the house, and was like, yep, I'm coming. And rolled back over and went back to sleep. So my dad.
I'm glad we're laughing. I'm assuming it
Yeah,
worked
he's
out.
okay.
Yeah, no.
He's doing great now.
He didn't make it out.
Yeah.
That would have been wild.
Crazy. No, that was like the final thing. That was like, all right.
And the house burned down all the way?
No,
Oh,
it
okay.
just the house burnt, and it like burnt part of the floor, but the smoke destroyed everything. We literally, insurance covered it, but we had to put everything in a huge dumpster. I'm 13, I'm the youngest, but we had all these toys like Playmobil and really nice Legos and all these things. And the insurance company wrote us a check for like an astronomical amount of money, but you had to use all the money to spend it on what you're replacing. So as a 13-year-old boy, we had 4 boys worth of toys and a huge check to go to Toys R Us. Literally, it was near Christmas. And for Christmas, I went and spent like thousands of dollars because we had to replace it on tons of Playmobil, tons of Legos, like all these Lincoln. Yeah, I don't know. But anyway, Brandon and I actually have a lot of those in boxes for when we had kids, because I was 13. I wasn't really playing with them. But at any rate, that was like the final thing where it was like, all right, it's time to move. So we moved to Ohio. And that's a district. So within the German Baptist Church, there's districts. Districts are there's multiple districts in states. And then the church itself is governed by like a governing body, is the best way to describe it. And then things are voted on democratically annually. Everyone comes together. There's a meeting. But within each district, things vary as far as like tolerance and like being led by the Holy Spirit versus. So Ohio was a lot less legalistic. And so my parents were like, either we're leaving this church and granted, it might seem weird to people that you're like, wait, you're willing to move your entire family across state lines in order to stay within a church. And that might seem like shocking to some people, but but that was our life. Like
Yeah.
my parents and their parents were like, they were raised, my parents were raised as children in this church. So it's like, you don't just like, oh, we're going to change churches. And that was a shock to me actually when I ended up breaking German Baptist. And
Breaking off.
Do you
and
call it Rumspringer at that point, or is it different?
I joke, but no,
we didn't
they don't.
they actually didn't they didn't know that the German Baptists don't wouldn't believe that they if their kid is going off the rails, it's not a good thing.
But in the Amish church, I think it's actually kind of like encouraged to like
Yeah,
go on
so that's
but
the
they don't have a cultural.
no, there's nothing cultural. No.
Yeah.
But what was I saying?
You were talking about like the districts and how your family transitioned into the new church, but I did want you to talk about how you guys landed in your house, like, and like what your house looked like. I think would be cool to
Mhm.
share, and then also kind of your spring up. I think
Oh,
we
yeah.
could get into that.
Well, this isn't the Steve show, but there I do have
He's
some
so
fun
fascinating though. Like yes, I'm his wife. I'm biased, but just
No,
a
you're right.
completely
is.
different world. Like
Yeah.
yeah. So I love hearing about it. Oh, I didn't
The-
realize that. So.
I know he's interesting because I have watched him pull his own tooth, and that is one of the wildest things
That is true.
I've ever experienced in my life, was watching another man
I don't think you
pull
did.
his own
Don't know
tooth.
this.
Yeah.
Okay, I need to hear about that at some point. Carry on.
I don't even remember that. So it's just another day.
That's even more interesting right there, just from that comment.
Like, you can be in the running for world's most interesting.
I don't know. I don't know.
Interesting. All right, carry on.
So yeah, so I forget where I was on. I had another point there, but it's okay. Maybe it'll come back.
You moved to Ohio.
Moved to Ohio.
And your mom's
And
asked you guys.
my mom in Pennsylvania was like, "Oh, I was saying it might seem odd to people that we moved, but it is our heritage and generations before all within this church." And so
It's your culture. Why would you?
yeah, it was our culture, and it came down to our parents saying, "Okay, either we're leaving this church or we're going to move to a different district," and ended up landing on moving to a different district. At this point, I was 13. It was really hard for me. I had friends there. I was going to public school, and I was starting to put roots down, and I loved my house. I loved everything about where we were at. And Pennsylvania's beautiful. It really is. Like,
Yeah.
it's stunning. Like rocky, rolling hills with cattle, and yeah, it's beautiful. But they ended up landing on moving, which was really hard for me. And one way for my mom to kind of try to bring us all in on it so that it wasn't as hard was saying, "Hey, is there anything that you want us to look for when we're looking for places in Ohio?" And I was like, I want to be able to fish out my back door, which was like the most outrageous thing to ask for ever. And I forget what my brother asked for. At this point, my two oldest brothers moved out, so it's just me and him. And at any rate, they found a house, a property in Ohio, and it was like Dayton area.
Stunning home.
And
His mom is an antique dealer, and her house has literally been in Better Homes magazine. It's stunning.
Wow.
It's a cool house.
But
it's a really
river, kid you not, is a stone's throw from his back porch.
So yeah,
Yeah.
the river's like you could, if you had a really good cast, you could probably cast from the back. But
I was imagining you literally like hanging out a window and just like
just as hard as I can, just to
Beautiful.
say.
Love seeing pictures.
There's a huge island in the middle of the river,
Oh,
and
wow.
it just goes up and down the river, and we own that whole island. And so I ended up building a bridge. We got cranes, dropped telephone poles onto pylons, and built a bridge from our house over onto the island.
Oh, wow.
A
And
beautiful bridge. It's not like a rickety little. It's like a bridge. It's
cool. It's really cool.
He's not
And-
doing his own horn, so I will.
And yeah, I grew up from 13 or so on fishing every day. And the creek, it's a creek technically, but there's it feels like a little bit out west because you can fly fish it, and there's smallmouth that are like 20 inches long. It's stunning, but it's a really small creek. So it's a special place. I think the Lord just knew, because when I moved, it was really hard for me, really hard. And for multiple reasons, and I don't know that I'll ever know all the answers, but right around that time, I started making some horrible decisions as a kid, and yeah, went on a rumspringa
A Rome Springer.
until I was 20. So it was about 6 or 7 years.
Kicked out of school, run into the
Expelled from
law.
high school, and yeah, a couple of my best friends died through those years,
Like
and
drunk driving and things like that.
yeah, it was gnarly. It was gnarly. And but I had that house that I loved, and I learned to really fall in love with, and fishing every day was like a way that it was like a way for me to connect with the Lord, even though I didn't see it that way then. Um, it was a really special place for sure. I've always found a lot of security, or I fall in love with places. I really do. I find something I love and I just like love it. And that was like our house in Pennsylvania was that way, and then our house in Ohio. Um, and then in my later teens, or early teens actually, we took a trip to the West, and we went to Estes Park, Colorado. And at that point, I hadn't been any further west than maybe Kansas. I don't know. So I hadn't seen the Rockies, and it changed my life. I like seeing the mountains, and we drove up to Estes Park. We couldn't go all the way, but there was snow like 12 feet high, and it was cut with a big machine, you know. And I remember like standing and reaching, and I'm just like, I was in awe. And I think once a week from that point forward, I would remind my mom, I am moving west. Someday I'm moving west. And I did that like weekly for a long time, probably annoyingly so to her.
If our daughter said that to us, I'd be like, that's nice.
Yeah. Yeah.
She can't go any
And-
further west than you already are. It'd have to be I'm going east.
Yeah.
I'm going east.
Yeah, that's fair.
Like, oh, okay, that's nice.
Yeah, you go west, girl.
Yeah, go west, like 3 blocks.
Yeah.
And so I didn't think she believed me. And so I just had to keep reminding her. Anyway, my Rumspringer ended at 20. I had a radical encounter with the Lord. Okay, so I had no context for anything supernatural up until that point. I'm sure things happened around me. I didn't have language or understand it. And then when I was 20, it feels like we're skipping a lot, but
It's your story,
when I was
man.
20, I was living in Florida, and Miami.
Which is not west.
No, it's
That's
the wrong direction.
Southeast,
Actually, in
completely
so
wrong
many
direction.
ways, the wrong direction. I was living in Fort Lauderdale, Miami with some friends. We decided we're going to move down there and destroy our lives.
Be a little naughty.
What's
And
Fort
so we
Lauderdale?
did. Dude, I have so much. I need to stop. I was down there, and there was a job that I worked on a golf course, and I managed a bunch of Haitians, and I was in charge of all of the landscaping. I have no idea how I got this job. I like smoothed the guy maybe, and he was like, "I like you. You're hired." But I like didn't know necessarily what I was doing, but we're like landscaping, and I'm like ordering around guys, and me and this guy just rode around in golf carts, and they would like trim all the palm trees, and I'm like trying to research and figure out stuff because I was faking my way through it. Anyway, I had a great job, but I was like supporting
Bad
some
habit.
really bad habits.
Yeah.
And so everything, it's just like lighting fire to all the money. We even lied on the contract to get an apartment. Like there's anyway.
How long ago is this? I don't know if we're falling into statute of limitations area. This goes live.
20.
He was 20. He's
Yeah.
42.
19. I was probably 19.
He's
I don't know.
42 now. So
All right, so we're probably fine.
Yeah,
All
we're
right.
good. It's okay. It's okay if not.
It was
And dude, everything was like a wreck in my life. Like it was just a mess. And I remember being like strung out and like I'm done with this. Like something's got to change. Everything was bad. And interestingly, looking back now, it's interesting spiritually, but my boss at that time, I built a great relationship with him, and he's like, "Hey, I want to take you for a drive." So we went for a drive. We were driving down through Miami, downtown Miami, well, along Miami Beach, and a massive hotel. So he owned this company that was contracted to landscape all of these upscale places. Like the golf course I was maintaining was a senior PGA tour came there. Like it was really nice. And then this hotel was like 5-star hotel, the massive, huge waterfalls. It was beautiful.
Wow.
And he's like, "Hey, I want to promote you and put you over this entire hotel." And it was the number he threw at me was astronomical about how much money I was going to make and all of these things. And I remember like being so I had planned to tell him on this trip, "Hey, I'm quitting. Like I've had enough. I got to get out of here." And it was like the devil was like, "Here you go. I'm going
Yeah.
to give you hundreds of thousands of dollars and you're going to live in a beautiful place." And I remember that pull of like right and wrong. It was so clear. And I was like, "I'm quitting." Like I told him, like on that trip, I'm like, "I'm done." And I remember having a huge bag of weed. I got my little red Chevy S10 and drove straight through from Fort Lauderdale to Troy, Ohio, and just smoked weed the entire time. I remember falling asleep multiple times and waking up like hundreds of yards down the road in
Wow.
a different lane. Like it was gnarly. And there's people I don't even know if my parents know this story, but or all the details. But I got to Ohio, I was done. Um, and my brother at that time worked for a landscaping company, and I was like, I think he offered me a job. I don't remember all those details. It was clear I was like, people were surrounding me, I think trying to help. I might not have seen it that way.
Did you already have your encounter with the Lord at that point?
No.
Oh, okay. Sorry.
No. So my brother offered me the job, and
I thought the encounter was going to be the 500-mile weed trip.
no, no, it wasn't. And a couple of my friends at that time had that were in the party scene with me had given their lives to the Lord. And so it was like a little thing in the back of my head. I remember being like, there's change happening. Like it was it's just that simple. Like things are changing.
Mm.
And so I like hop in my truck. In my head, I see it was Monday morning. I got in the truck, was driving to the first day of work, and I'm driving. I know exactly, I could put a pin in the ground exactly where I was at. And I just saw the Lord. And I was so like, it was so like
Wow.
life changing. And I like couldn't drive, whipped off the road. I'm standing along the road, like a mess, a complete mess, bawling. I'm like talking to the Lord that I don't ever remember actually having a conversation with. And like, um, and I'm like, all right, like I'll follow you. Like I don't know what that means. I don't know what this looks like, but I'll follow you. And apparently a lot changed because I got to work. My brother looked at me, and my brother was a believer, is a believer, but was then, and looked at me. He's like, "Bro, what changed?" And I'm like, "Dude, I like I explained it." And he sent me home. Was like, "All right." They sent me home, and I was baptized. I was
Wow.
baptized into that same church I was raised in. That was all the context I had for following the Lord, was like, he says that you're baptized, I'm doing it. And so that started my journey with the Lord. And I was 20. It was this, I think it was a week before my 21st birthday. So I was pretty much 21. And I worked for my brother for a while, landscaping. And then the Lord put a job in my lap that I would have never looked for. I had vowed never to step foot in a school ever again. I had really bad experiences in high school, and
Because
I was a mess in high school.
teachers like kicked you out and stuff like that, and there was like that old mentality of like the kid is bad and it's not, like they need guidance and love.
There was a lot of that, and I can look back, I can blame a lot of things. I can say a lot of things. Reality was I was an a-hole. Like that's straightforward. Like I was a mess. If I found someone who was there was any discrepancy in character and they would claim to be something they weren't, I made it my mission to like expose it. And I was
Mm.
mean and nasty about it. And the Lord has used that for good, like now.
Yeah.
But at that time, I had no idea how to use that. I had no idea how to use that, and it was a mess.
So you swore you'd
Um,
never go back to school.
yeah, I swore I'd never go back to school, and then I got an offer to teach in the private school of the church that I grew up in, and they said we're looking for teachers, and that to me was like, what? Why would you ask me for one? And so I mulled it over. I eventually took the job, and it was incredible. I taught there for 3 years. Um, I have contact with all of those kids, and I've watched most of them follow the Lord, and um, yeah, it was an incredible experience, and the Lord knew exactly what He was doing. So then in my early 20s, I was pursuing working with youth, and I noticed a gift that I didn't know I had that He exposed. And so I started pursuing that. In my early 20s, I started praying about starting something for kids that had it felt like there was a need that needed to be filled in our local community of helping kids in the community have somewhere safe to go. And so we started praying, and a group of us 20s, early 20s and late teens believers who were spirit filled started praying every week. We prayed every week for a year at my house. My mom made us spaghetti every week. I think it was Friday. I don't actually remember what day. Tuesdays maybe. Anyway, whatever.
Spaghetti day.
Um,
Spaghetti day.
spaghetti day, and nothing happened for a year. Like we're praying, but we were faithfully praying. Like give us direction, and little things happen. But as I remember it, not much happened. Um, we started a nonprofit. We got the paperwork back. We had every time we met, we did our board meetings. We did all the stuff, minutes, the whole thing. Like, so I was learning things then that now I'm like, I'm so grateful. It's crazy how the Lord wastes nothing. Um, but we did all this for a year, and then what we were praying for came to fruition with no work. Literally, a church heard about us, reached out, said, "Hey, we're a church. We have a property in the middle of this town. It has a community center already built. It has woods. It has a huge parking lot, and we just don't have the people to do anything with it. Would you guys be interested?" And of course, it's like, well, this is
Wow.
exactly what we prayed for.
Yeah.
So we built a ton
Crazy.
of skate ramps, and we built jumps in the woods. We had the community center. We got tons of people that gave their time, donations. We built this thing, and we ran it for a year. At Friday nights, kids came, and the first night, dude, we had like way more kids than volunteers. Like it was a hot
Was not a
fights
good ratio.
everywhere. Cops were called. It was a hot. I mean, I remember like us when it was over the first night, like, oh, like we're in trouble. Like the cops, everybody hate us. Like,
So there's nothing to do out there. There really
yeah,
isn't.
no, it was
So it
like,
was like youth thing, open Friday night, and
Yeah.
all the kids were like, we're there. And so
so anyway, we pivoted. We learned,
So
we
cool.
grew and learned. I mean, I was the oldest one on the team, and I was 23 or 4, if I remember right. I don't even know, but everyone else was younger that I remember. Maybe Levi was older. I don't know, but it was such a crazy experience. And that was in Pickle, Ohio, and built relationships then that also again have lasted. On my way to moving to California, I stopped in uh, one of the Minnesota, not Minnesota, I forget, but met with kids that I had poured a lot into during that time, and they were adults then. But again, God wastes nothing. Like it's incredible. The older I get, and the more decades pass with the Lord, the more in awe I am of Him and how everything is weaved perfectly together, even within my like disobedience or areas that I could have done things better. Um, it doesn't matter. Like the Lord is good. The Lord is so good. The Lord is so good.
Yeah. It's always like that thing, right? Of when when you've experienced the low end of things, or you've experienced the brokenness to realize that the broken places have become your strength, or become the place where like the Lord actually had probably already put passion for you. Like you, a broken young man, now has passion to help broken young men.
What? I'm not qualified for this. But yet he qualifies us. Like it's
Yeah.
not about what my resume or my college degree or um anyway, that experience led to when that ended up ending, a lot of us we were in our early 20s. None of us are married. And so we started like people started getting married and going and doing, and so it just kind of broke apart. And I was like, it started a fire in me where I was like, this is going to continue. I don't know what that's going to look like. So I took a couple years sabbatical working in fine architectural woodworking, and that was a tough season for me because I wasn't doing what I wanted to be doing. And so it's a little bit of rebellion there. And um, but eventually the Lord never stopped speaking. And eventually in a couple years, it was clear I was to start looking for something. And at that time I was in college. I was planning to be a teacher because that's what I knew. Um, and that was around Columbine. I know it was after Columbine. There was multiple shootings by that point, and I was like, and the Lord very clearly said, you want to be a teacher, that's fine, but understand that you're going to be in classrooms with 40 kids. You're going to have an aide. You're not going to have the one-on-one, the close relationship that I built you for. And so I felt a lot of freedom to do, but it was very clear. I'm like, that's not what I want. I want, I want to be challenged, and I want to really make a difference individually, like in
Yeah.
individual lives. So I was pursuing college. I dropped out of college and continued woodworking, and then all of a sudden, the Lord was like, "Start looking."
So the Columbine, you brought that up because
So I during these shootings were happening in schools, and I've always had a heart for. It's interesting that the Lord is. I've always grieved for the person that's hurting the most.
Hmm.
And in the shootings, I was grieving for the shooters. And while it's like I was hurting for the kids and families, obviously, but reality is the shooters are in incredible turmoil. And I would just think about them and grieve at the years that they had spent being confused and not understanding like why they feel these things they feel, or why
to the point of being able to act something out like that to that degree.
to that.
Yeah.
And I've had that understanding, and that the Lord has given me a heart, and I've seen it in every scenario. I always have that heart. I run straight to the person that's grieving the most. And I'm like, I want to help those kids. Like that's where I want to be. I want to help the it and during that time, and it happens even within like even within today's hot topics, like the trans movement, LGBT, and all of that. Like
Yeah.
it's so much hatred from the church towards and even within like pedophilia and all of these things. It's like hang him, go, like
Wood chipper.
put him through a wood chipper,
Yeah.
like all of these things. And even with these shooters, it's the same thing, and it always has been. It's people who are righteous, and I'm righteous, and you're not, and you should die. And for me, I've always felt the grief for these people because I'm like, no one loves them. Like and that's the issue.
Where was
That's
the
the
depth?
issue.
Yeah.
Where was the love? And so I'm like, this is where I'm called. I'm called to work here. I don't know what that looks like, but I know it's not working in a public school.
Yeah.
And so I'm sure there's opportunity there and people that are doing great at that in public schools. But for me, it was different. So that's when I was like doing woodworking and everything. And then all of a sudden the Lord said to start looking. And I looked, and literally the first place I saw was a place in Northern California, and
Boarding school for at-risk youth.
a boarding school for at-risk youth. And I was like, oh, okay.
And J.
And so I said, I had some things. I'm like, I let go of all of my desires to move west. I'm never pursuing that. I was following the Lord, And I was like, wherever you go, if it's in a swamp in Louisiana, whatever. And so it's California. Well, my context of California was like the valley. I just didn't have.
It was less ridiculous back then.
Bunch of
Yeah.
surfer kids.
Yeah, and I
It's
was
to, like,
and I was like, I didn't see mountains or
admired.
snow or any of that. Like, so I'm like, what?
I said to be admired. It was
Oh.
before it was like frowned upon to be here.
Yeah. And anyway, I contacted them. They reached back. Then I was like, well, I have to tour. I'm not gonna just go out on a whim. I'm gonna tour. So I flew out to California, toured, and I toured for a week. No, I mean, after working there for 7, 8 years or whatever it was,
8 years for you.
I never saw anyone tour more than a day. I'm like, wow, that was idiotic. But it actually wasn't, because I knew within a few hours, I'm like, this is like similar with you. I was like, this is the job. And then I had 6 days to explore the mountains and spend time with the kids on my own time. And it was really special, really clear. I remember my mom said, call me after the first day and let me know how things go. I'd never called her on the trip.
No, why for that? He just
And
never.
and there's no service. It's
The
at
cult
4,000
got him.
feet. Yeah. Yeah, the cult got me.
That's ironic. All right.
So anyway, took the job, loaded. At that time, I was living, I don't remember where I was living, but I had moved out multiple times, and I wasn't living in a home. So I loaded a U-Haul full of furniture, all my stuff, and put my 4Runner on a dolly behind the U-Haul and started heading west. And that trip was insane. Like, incredible worship, incredible time with the Lord. Yeah, it was insane. And maybe one of the most marking moments that I can remember in my Christian life was crossing into California I came up through Reno, and I'm into California. If any of you have ever come into California, you know they check for fruit. It's the most ridiculous thing in the world. I think
You got any fruit?
conspiracy there.
It is weird.
Whatever. And it's just at like 2 a.m. or something stupid. And so they have one lane open. I pull up to this building, and because there's only one lane open, it's kind of busy. And so I get up there, U-Haul loaded. I'm 29, I think. And this little lady, she's like 5'4", super Spitfire. I'm like, I'm not sure whether she's amazing or I'm going to get in trouble, like that kind of. And she knocks on the window. I like roll the window down. She's very skeptical, very judgmental. Like, you're moving by yourself.
There's a truck behind you. Yeah.
Like what?
Yeah.
And she's obviously checking for other things.
Yeah, where's
And
the pot?
yeah.
Or the people that are hiding in your like.
So she's like, get out, like very judgmental, like get out of the truck and come back. And she's like, unlock the back, to fling open the back. She's sure she's gonna find like black and yellow top crates for sure.
Or humans.
And so I like throw it open, and she looks in there, and it's just like obviously what it is, furniture and all kinds of stuff. And she like is flabbergasted at the thought of this happening. And
That's someone moving? Has she never seen someone move?
for some reason, and I don't know why, but she was sure that I think it was because she was sure that she had caught something.
Yeah.
And when she realized she hadn't,
Mhm.
I remember going back up into the cab, sitting, and the cars are like piling up behind me. And she looks at me and she's like, why are you moving like to California from there? And I looked at her and I'm like, I'm following the Lord. And I took a job, and this is the job. I'm working in a boarding school. I feel called to work long term with kids and help them. And she just started to weep. And she said, I was that child.
Mm.
And
Wow.
I went to boarding school, and my life the Lord saved me at one of those schools. And she's like weeping, and she lays hands on me, and she welcomes me into California. Like, laying hands on me saying,
Wow.
bless you, Lord bless this. Like, and it was like, it was so marking for me because, and having hours, what is it, 20, I don't know how many hours driving. You have so many moments to talk with the Lord and then be like, all right, well, wow, I'm really letting go. And it felt like each mile was like further away, like further away. I'm committing, Lord, I'm following you. And then that moment was like, yes, this is
Yeah.
incredible. And yeah, started working at the job and worked on the school portion of the job, trying to like improve anything that I was called to. And then I guess created a position for a school administrator and along comes
I don't
this.
even know how, honestly, Aaron and I were just talking about this like over the summer. That whole season two for us was so weird because I was working for the county. I had come in and gotten a job with the county in CPS.
For like SCOE? Oh, okay.
Yeah, yeah. No, I wasn't even. So my background in education was I worked for an organization that was embedded in schools here in New York, and I ran programming from intervention to tutoring to college prep, all that sort of stuff.
Cool.
So when I applied for the job at the school in California, I was like, there's 0% chance I'm getting this job. Like, no chance. I got like an email from like LinkedIn or something like that about this job opening up on the school, and I was miserable at CPS. I was just miserable. I had been there for like 3 months at that point, I think, and 80% of my time was in court
Mm.
and being a glorified babysitter. And I was like,
Yeah.
I'm not working with any kids. I'm not doing anything.
Yeah.
So that email came through, and I was like, I'm just gonna apply and see what happens. 0% chance. I'm like, I am not a school administrator. I have no background in school administration at all. And we came up. I remember it was Christmas. I think it was like the day after Christmas, actually, because all the kids were in the dining hall with their families doing like gifts, and the fire was going. And I was like,
Aw.
what is this place? This is crazy. And I had that moment. I think our director brought me over to the boys' schoolroom, and that's where I met
Yeah.
you. I had that whole thing, and I remember coming back up to the dining hall. Erin was still there, and being like, "I don't know how I'm gonna get this job, but I need to get this job. Like,
Aw.
if I have to beg, I need to get this job." And that was it.
Wow. What a change from being in the court system and babysitting to what we both know that job was. Like
Mhm. Accepting.
what like it feels like an answer to prayers for you too. Of like, because you get such that job, you had so long-term contact with kids who are in an environment where they desperately need it, and it just is
Yeah.
so rewarding. It was one of the most rewarding jobs.
Yeah, it really was. Yeah.
And
Yeah.
still having a handful of them that, especially from like that first group, like the first probably 2 years, uh, still like being friends with some of them on Facebook, getting to chat sometimes, and
Yeah.
like
Yeah.
sometimes they'll drop a line, be like, "Hey, Mr. J, here's what I'm doing now." And it's like, "You're a
Aw.
dad. That's crazy."
Yeah,
Right?
what?
It's like, what?
Yeah.
I remember
Oh.
giving you like 1,000 lines, and now you've got 3 kids. That's wild.
That's so true.
They're going through all the things that we
Mm.
knew they would go through.
Yeah,
All of the things that life throws at them, they're going through it. They're all in different ways. It's crazy.
Yeah.
it's
Yeah.
wild. Yeah, I won't. That's crazy, man. I didn't know. I knew some of that stuff. I remember you living in Ohio and some of your background stuff, but seeing how, you know, again, the Lord kind of sets you up from taking all the broken places that probably were, again, probably the strengths and probably the gift set that you have as being probably one of the most pastoral people I've ever met,
Oh, wow.
really in both of you, as far as loving people really well, shepherding people, caring for people. To see how that kind of went from what sounds like the enemy messed with that and fed into insecurities there to now the Lord doing what he did and just being like, this was actually your strength set, this is your gift set, this
Yeah.
is what I've called you to be.
Yeah.
It's so cool. And I'm curious because I wasn't really there for you two coming together.
Mhm.
But
That's the whole thing.
you know, I think for you too, Brandon. I mean, I want to get into some of your story too of um, you coming up. How did you land out in Reading and eventually landed on the mountain? Got married. Like, I want to know a bit more about your story,
Yeah. Okay. And then, I mean, you're obviously in
and
the
then we can
show.
talk Bigfoot and all the other stuff you want to talk about.
Yes. I was gonna say about how trafficking came on the radar too. But or actually I
Yeah,
said
that's
trafficking.
we kind of stopped right at when I took the job.
Yeah, so I guess we can like meet up and then get into that.
I don't
but,
know.
whatever, yeah. We're fidgeters, so we're fidgeting with Play-Doh.
Oh, come on, adult ADHD. Let's go.
I was like, I kept like picking up my water, and I was like, I need something to fidget with, so I had to grab my kids' Play-Doh.
It's true.
Okay, so me, I'll probably talk less than you.
Which
Shots
is funny.
fired.
I'm the introvert.
We switched.
Yeah.
We totally switched because I used to be the rambler, and like notoriously, like people would like start falling asleep while I talk to them when I
he
was a
wasn't
kid.
falling asleep.
No, not like that. I just mean like notoriously, I was like the oversharer, and at some point in my life, I mellowed out. But I was the oversharer. But now in this season, you are the oversharer.
Well, no, let's get through your story, and then I'll be the judge.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, so Steve had a really, I would say, stable home. And that is not how my story begins. So, my mom and I talked about this probably like 10 years ago, where I asked her, like, hey, do I have permission to share like your piece of this? Because my story actually begins pre-me. But when my mom got pregnant with me, she was married to another man. And my mom is Caucasian, and I say conservative, like grew up a conservative Christian, but then I met Steve. I was like, oh, we're not conservative Christians.
It's a
But in
spectrum.
my definition, we were like Calvary Chapel Christians.
Yeah.
Okay.
So we had pews, but he had bonnets. So
Yeah. You're in the middle.
yeah, I'm in the middle. I'm in the middle Christian. Yeah,
I would
anyway.
have called you lukewarm.
Okay, so but a conservative Christian family in California, and my family probably leans more like now you would call it right wing and like their beliefs and stuff like that. And my mom was married to a also a white man, and as you can see, I am not white.
What?
It's a shocker.
What?
But my mom's husband at the time had some pretty distinct issues, and their marriage was just not healthy. And my mom says there was an attractive black man that worked with her, and he was very good at saying all of the right things and being extremely charming. And my mom, what's the word I'm looking for? Cheated on her husband. I've never had to say this in like a podcast setting or like a share. Usually it's like we're grabbing coffee and I'm like chatting about it. So I'm like, oh,
As you do.
can't do this
Just gonna
still.
talk about my parents' extramarital affairs
Yeah,
over
like,
coffee.
Yeah, sorry, mom. Love you. Know you're great. She's doing great. All right. So yeah, my mom cheated on her husband with a black man and got pregnant with a brown child. So, anyway, so there was no hiding it, right? So, my mom had strong convictions around like not having an abortion, and there was actually a really close call because she was in kind of an impossible situation. She was married to this man. She was pregnant with a child that wasn't going to look like him. And then I think there were other parties as well that were encouraging her to have an abortion. And she ended up going to the clinic to abort me. And she had like an issue with her thyroid or something like that. And I've never heard of this. Like I've never heard of somebody going to an abortion clinic and like needing to go get their doctor to sign off on something. But that was the case. They were like, because you have this issue, you need to go get this signed off by your doctor before you can have an abortion. Yeah. So she goes into speak with her doctor, and her doctor was a Christian. And her doctor was like, I will not sign off on this. And my mom like weeps in the office and because of that doctor standing on their convictions, I'm here today. And my mom didn't know this at the time, but my dad was not honest, and he was a member of the Crip gangs in LA, and in and out of jail. He had just not a healthy man. Ended up being abusive and domestic violence, the whole spiel. And so my father was just extremely broken in that sense. And because of the issues that my mom was having with the marriage, she decided that they were going to, and realistically, she expressed that she didn't feel safe, with, if I was going to be a boy, then she was going to stay in the marriage. But if I was a girl, she didn't feel that she could trust her husband at the time with a daughter that wasn't his. And so she ended up breaking off the marriage. And then we were in a relationship. She had me, and then we were in a relationship with my dad until I was 2. And that's when everything came out.
So hold on, I gotta.
Yeah,
So
sorry.
he was a member of the Crips, and she
Yeah.
had no idea.
No idea. No idea. Yeah, he's extremely charming individual.
Wow.
Extremely charming, yeah. And so
How does that just come out? Like how?
well, let me
Like
tell
over
you.
dinner one night? Like, hey, by the way.
Yeah, so how that came out. So the domestic violence started like coming up, and she started like seeing the red flags and stuff like that. And just but when I was I had to have been, I was a baby. I don't remember this, my mom told me. But my dad went to see a prostitute, and he had me with him. And so I was in a car seat by the door, and he was about to engage in his time with prostitution, or a prostitute, and she ended up being a cop. And so he literally like went to run out the door, and quote, the police officers told my mom that he stopped because I was there. And so he like didn't like leave. Anyway, so that's how my mom found out, is she literally had to like come and pick me up from the police and like that whole spiel. So interesting intro into life. We stayed in a relationship with my dad until I was 2. And I like distinctly, my first memory is I remember we were at an airport, and my dad is a truck driver. And I remember there was a big, like giant, like FedEx plane in the background. Like I can distinctly remember like the FedEx plane in the background. And like that was the last time I like saw my dad. And like hugging him, and that was like it. So then it was just me and my mom from 2 till I was about 10. And man, it's interesting, like the thing. Oh, why are you crying? Don't do that. um it's funny, it's like this is all like normal for me to like talk about, but then I like look at Steve, and he's like tearing up, and I'm like, oh, like throws me off. I'm like, because you just go through.
Good husband right there.
Yeah, it is a good husband. He loves me so much. And actually on our first date, this was his response too. And I was like, what are you doing? So
Again, though, I watched him pull a tooth, not a tear.
this savage individual, like what the heck? Killed the weed.
This is real masculinity right here.
Yeah, he caught my heart by killing a rattlesnake. So it's like
threw one at my car once too.
You what?
I don't even know if you remember that. You and Emmett.
Did what?
It was my first summer on the mountain. You guys killed a rattlesnake over by the girls' classroom, and I had my car up there, and I was pulling out, and I don't know if it was you or Emmett, but someone threw a decapitated rattlesnake right onto my windshield.
I have no idea, but I'm gonna blame Emmett. I'm definitely gonna blame Emmett on this one.
Awesome.
Anyway, let's get back to.
Yeah, all right, getting back to it. So, anyways, from the age of 2 to I think I was 10, it was just my mom. My mom never went on any dates. It was literally just the 2 of us. And there's some unique. I feel like this is relevant, and I don't know why yet, but I'll share it because I'm thinking of it. But we moved around a ton. Like I remember we moved every year, and for some reason it was always like right on my birthday. So I like never had a birthday party. I think I was in 5th grade when I had my first like memorable. Oh no, I had one when I was 6. Now that I think about it. But we had a memorable birthday when I was in 5th grade. But We were moving constantly. I think I'm going to be tipping 30 this year. And I think I've moved like 32 times in my life, I think if I
Wow.
like did the math recently. Yeah,
Interesting way
so a
to save
lot.
on birthday party expenses.
There you go. Yeah. There you go. It's one way. Yeah. And this is really interesting, but the Lord always really protected me in terms of like purity and sexual safety. Like given all the like the unique instability I had in my life,
Yeah.
nothing ever happened to me. Um and we literally, when I was 6 years old, we lived in this apartment in Yorba Linda, California, and our next door neighbor um always um was a married man. He had a son who was probably like 4, and I would play with his son. And my mom always had a check about this guy. And his name was Sharif. And he was from somewhere in the Middle East. I think they were like, I forget where, but somewhere in the Middle East. And my mom just always had a check. And he was always inviting me to like, oh, well, like your daughter can come with us to do XYZ. And my mom was just always like, no. It got to the point where my mom was noticing like footprints out the window, like things like that. And it
Like
uh
out your bedroom window?
outside of my bedroom window. Yeah. And
Oh wow.
so and this one day the police showed up next door, bust the door in. His whole family was there. His wife was pregnant with a daughter, and they arrested him because he had been molesting multiple girls in the neighborhood. He had been sneaking into
Oh
the
my
neighbor's
gosh.
2-story window for she was I want to say she was 10, and he'd been sneaking in her window for 8 years. And she finally like got the courage to say something. So he got life in prison, obviously. Um, but just that was like kind of like an intro into uh like perverted sexuality, I guess would be like a way to say that. But nothing ever happened to me, and that carried on through my life. But there were like distinct markers of just like very unique circumstances that the
Wow.
Lord shielded me from. And when we got married, we were both virgins. So it's just relevant to what we'll get into later, I think. But so yeah, anyways, when I was 10 years old, my mom got a phone call, and it was my dad basically saying, I've changed. I'm amazing. Surprised you have 10 siblings. And
Big
I wrote,
Christmas.
yeah, big Christmas. So surprised you have 10 siblings. And I want to be back into my daughter's life, essentially. And my mom worried about it for months, and finally, like my biggest desire in my heart was to have a relationship with my dad and to have siblings. And so my mom was like, do I let this person back into our lives who was not a safe person? And I probably have to talk to her about like where that decision, because it looks a lot different. We're a lot healthier now than we were back then when I was 10 and got that phone call. But she allowed him to have a relationship with me, and it was over the phone for a long time. And then eventually it transitioned, and we ended up my mom got back into a relationship with him. And so we moved, we collided our family again, and he hadn't changed. And those were all lies and a big facade. And so he ended up actually putting us, this is interesting too, because I haven't talked to him about this stuff, but he's still like alive, and so he might see this, and that's just like an interesting, like, oh, well, what? Sorry. Um, but, and there, for context into him, like, there's a lot of compassion there for my father. His dad was, committed suicide after robbing a Brinks truck, for context into
Oh wow.
his bringing. And so my dad grew up, he was getting a regular check from the state because his dad had committed suicide. And so he grew up with no accountability and a lot of funds in a town where nothing really happened. So he just had money to blow and no structure, and it just turned into a lot of brokenness moving forward into his life. So, yeah, so there's a ton there. But anyways, so for the next, I think we moved in with him when I was 11, and then he ended up putting us into so much debt that we had to, because he was gambling our money away. So we had to leave anything I'd ever known. We moved a lot, but I was always in the same, like within 30 minutes of all of my family members. And so we ended up dropping everything and moving to Arkansas to live with his family. And I'm from Southern California, and so I grew up with Mexican kids, black kids, white kids, Asian kids, like a ton of diversity. And I can honestly say that people like fight about this now, but I never saw like color being an issue at all. Like we were just people and kids and we just had fun. But my dad didn't look at the world that way. And so it was the first time I was exposed to racism, but it's not the way that we're hearing it from culture today. It was my dad expressed racism towards white people. And so we moved into a culture where that was, we moved to West Memphis, Arkansas, and that was kind of the consensus among the culture there too. And so stepping into, we moved to Arkansas, and we were there we were there for 9 months, but it feels like so long. But we left when I want to say I was 14, but I feel like I'm getting my math wrong, but it's fine. In 2009, so whenever that was. But we stepped into.
You were 14 in 2009?
I don't know.
I'm gonna have to let that process for a second.
I know. He's 42. Let's do that math, right? So
yeah, but I'm closer to him than I am to you.
I know. I'm just saying we've got a sizable age gap. So,
but did you experience that? Like you're saying, that was more your dad's, as far as the racism, that was more your dad's background and experience, I guess, rhetoric stuff. Did you experience that from the other side as well, kind of being a child of, I guess, what they would say mixed race now in Arkansas? Or did you?
Yeah, actually, this was fascinating. So the town we moved to, it's called Earl, Arkansas, and it literally had been at the time hit by a tornado twice and left that way. So extremely small town. Alcohol was actually legal, so there was like bootlegging going on. And it had literally been hit by a tornado twice, and it was just like a demolished, extremely impoverished town. And so when I got there, I was like a C/D average student in California, but when I got there, I immediately became one of the smartest kids in the school because of just where they were at with education. And I'm mixed, and so my hair was a softer texture than a lot of the girls there, and it was an all-black school just because of the demographic. And so I immediately was getting very unique attention. And the girls hated me and wanted to cut my hair off, and the boys really valued me. So it was like placed into like immediate bullying, and then all of the kids were like losing their virginity at 12. Yeah, I had like multiple stories where my new friends had like lost their virginity in the school bathroom to one of the boys, like down, like this was normal. This was just normal for them. And this blew my mind because it's not where I came from. Yorba Linda, that's where Disneyland is. Like, let's Anaheim. But so just a very different culture. And so I was exposed to a lot. My mom was actually so concerned about my education and just the school culture that we moved to a city that was like 30 minutes away. And there were white kids and black kids, and they would segregate themselves. This was fascinating to me because this is just not how my brain worked at all. Like I had heard about racism, but suddenly I was like immersed in a culture that actively was operating under segregation while I was like, this wasn't that long ago,
in 2009.
So, 2009. Yeah. So was it 2009?
Just in case you forgot.
So, in case we forgot. Yeah. So anyways, things weren't going well there. And my mom and I actually packed up. My dad was a trucker, so he'd leave for a week. And while he was gone, we packed up, like he left and we packed up and fled in the middle of the night, kind of thing. And so we moved back to California, and actually we tried, and my dad caught wind of it, and he turned the truck around and came back and begged us to stay. And I'll keep some details covered there, but he like begged us to stay, and we were like, okay, like one more shot kind of thing. And it's interesting because in hindsight, I'm like, what were we thinking? but at the time you're so in it. Like in that's
Yeah.
a lot of how this stuff works and how people get trapped in these situations is because you really do have bonds and relationships with these people. And so
Yeah, Stockholm syndrome stuff and all that.
exactly. Yeah. So it's super interesting to look at my own story with the knowledge that I have now because it's like, oh whoa, this is where we were operating in that and that. But yeah, anyway, so I think probably like a few months went by and we were like, this isn't working out. So we did it again and we committed and went across the state. So back to California, and we were living with my grandma at the time, and we were getting my dad was harassing us, and again I'm like, oh wow, this is on the air, so like going for it. But and harassing us, we were getting death threats. My dad had connection to gangs in LA, and so they were like, realistically we knew he'd probably never act on them, but they were credible, if that makes sense. And so we strategically moved across the street from a police station. And
Wow.
yeah, so just because it just that little bit of security. At one point I remember backtracking a lot, but between that time of being 11 years old into being 14 years old, there were a few times where we were like living in motels. And so it was funny, we were talking about like the ACEs score in adverse childhood experiences. We were talking about the ACEs score in Redding, California, and like what the category is for being like homeless. And it had never occurred to me before, but I was like, I was a homeless youth. Like it blew my mind. And I was like, I've never, because we were in a hotel, but I was like, I was classified as like a
You're like, they have a jacuzzi. This can't
yeah, I
be.
was like, but it had never occurred to me like that. So yeah, so that's just like that background there. But so we moved across the street from this police station, and eventually we got restraining orders. And so the time with my dad kind of fizzled out. And within that time, I never did drugs. I never had sex. Like I just, given the circumstances of what my life was and the choices that I made and just how the Lord really put like a box, like a big bubble of safety around me. Cause like I never stepped into a lot of things that we hear traditionally from kids who have lives like that. So, yeah. But I was so bitter. Like I remember like,
I think
yeah, go for it.
I think your mom deserves a lot of credit.
Oh my God. Oh my God. Yeah. Yeah.
Because
my mom did a great job. Yeah.
She was carrying a lot of weight.
Yeah.
For you.
Yeah.
And
didn't have a ton of support either.
And that's also rare.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. My mom did a really great job. Yeah. Shout out to you, Pam.
Go
Anyways, so I remember this was before we moved in. We were to the apartment across the street from the police station. But we were at my grandma's house, and it was the middle of the night. I got a phone call. My dad was probably high on crack, and he called just because he would get like really high highs and be really good, and then as soon as he hit a low, he'd go find drugs. And so it was just this constant. So we had like really great moments with him, and then we had like really awful moments with him, and that's how that works. But I distinctly remember we were at my grandma's house, and he called in the middle of the night, and I answered the phone, and he just cussed me out and accused me of all of these things. And I remember like it was like somebody like flipped a switch off, and I just remember like shutting down. And I don't know how to explain it other than it was that moment where like everything turned off. I stopped crying. I stopped expressing emotion, just a complete switch off. And I remember I was 14 for that. So from 14 to 16, I was just like muted, never cried. I remember having a conversation with my grandma expressing, I was like, yeah, I don't cry anymore. And she was like, you would cry if your mom I was like, no, I don't think so. But like in hindsight, I'm like, Grandma, why were you not like calling for a therapist? She was like, no, you definitely cry.
If I really stomped on your foot, I bet you would cry.
I bet I could make you cry.
Right approach. So it always cracks me up. I'm like, Grandma. Anyway, so yeah, so So even though I was protected and I didn't engage in a lot of things or just things that didn't happen to me in some ways, I was so bitter. I was just angry
Yeah.
and constantly self-protecting and approached all my relationships like that. So what was my mom, like when we came back, she was like, where do you want to be? And so even though we moved across the street from the police department, she like asked me like, where do you want to be? In California, as long as we're close to our family to some degree, like where? And I was like, before we left, we were going to this school and I really liked the school. And she was like, okay, we're gonna move to close to this school. So um it's funny because I was going into high school, so it was a different school, but it was in the same region. But I was like, all the kids will be there. All the kids that I really like will be there. And so we started going to this school. It was Los Alamitos High School. And they had a choir program. And it called yeah, anyways, they had this cool choir program. And I didn't even want to get into it. My mom was like, you need to be involved in some type of extracurricular, like you need a team. She was like, whatever it is, you need a team. So somebody's like doing construction or something, but like, so my mom made me enroll in this choir program, and it was amazing. It was so cool. It was singing and dancing. It's called show choir. So think like Pitch Perfect if you've seen that.
Wow.
Um,
Were you doing like all a cappella and everything too, or was it?
There's a cappella as well, but it was the singing and dancing bit to toot my
Did you make a
own
lot of a cappella pun jokes? Like were you like
No, we did
doing
not
the
make a
whole
lot of acapella fun
excuse me?
jokes.
What?
It's the whole thing.
There's these things, Steve, they're called movies. You watch them on a screen.
Oh,
Have you seen Pitch Perfect?
yeah.
Okay.
But I mean,
That was my life.
I don't remember movies.
Okay, no. So anyways, so to forget for context, he doesn't, but this choir ended up being they have been the reigning champs of nationals for like years. Like they had like a 15-year running. Yeah, so they're the best, literally the best singing and dancing choir group, high school choir group in America. And I think they still are. They're either second or first place like since. So anyways, this choir was awesome. It just changed my life in a lot of ways. If I could like go back and relive like a season of life, it would literally be that, just because of how much fun it was.
Not our honeymoon.
That was pretty great. But yeah, the show choir, huge fan. So
You don't do some singing and dancing in your kitchen or anything like that?
Dancing. Okay, so while I was there, I somehow I was in science class, and the teacher was talking about evolution. And through all of this chaos, I had always really loved Jesus. I had always been a Christian. And I missed this, but I gave my life to the Lord in the back seat of our car when I was 4. I just like did it. My mom was driving, and I was like, Jesus, come into my heart. And so that always carried through. I don't think I never had the depth that I do now, but I always knew the God.
Yeah.
Anyways, so I'm in science class at school, and the teacher, Mr. Platt, was talking about evolution. And because I was angry and bitter, but I had a strong like moral compass, and he was like, creation is essentially bogus, and this is how we came to be. And I stood up in the back of the class, and I unkindly and probably some language was like, you're a liar. And I told him that it just wasn't true. And another girl in the back of the class spoke up and was like, I don't agree with the way she said it, but she's telling the truth. And so we both got kicked out of class that day, and met in the hallway and became friends. And she invited me to church. And so I was like, okay, I'll go with you. So she invited me to this youth group, and that youth group ended up probably saving my life. What? No, we're on camera. What is that? This is not appropriate.
Oh, I'm gonna slow that down for the YouTube version of this. It's gonna be nice and slow motion.
I'm like, no, sir.
My wife was a little rebel.
That was pure instinct. No. That man just moved on instinct.
Anyways, okay, so I start going.
Wow, he made you red.
No.
That's possible.
Shut up. Okay, so stop.
I won't again.
Thank
I'm about to flip the camera off. I don't know what's going on right now.
Nothing's going on right now. Okay.
I know you guys got a babysitter, but I mean, I don't know.
That oh my gosh. Okay. So all right, to speed things up. So this youth group, it ended up being there were a bunch of kids there that would constantly go on mission trips, and they just loved the Lord. And these kids would go on these mission trips and they would come back with these like insane stories. Like one of my friends, shout out to Caleb Beeson, but he went on a mission trip to India and he spit in his hands 7 times and rubbed a blind man's eyes, and nothing happened for 6 times. And then on the 7th time, the guy was completely healed of blindness. And okay, so these
Wow.
are 16-year-olds coming back to relay these stories, and I was on this journey of falling in love with Jesus and dropping those walls of bitterness, and I was like, I don't know about all that, but I want it. And so
Did you start
yeah,
spitting in people's
so
eyes?
the spitting in people's eyes, yeah, no, just the healing, the interaction with the Lord, the confidence to spit in your
7
hand
times.
7 times with nothing happening. Okay,
Impressive.
first off, spitting in your hand once, but
And
7 times.
It's so easy to hear this. You have no context. You don't know who Caleb is. I've met Caleb.
Oh my God.
Caleb is the last, like when you just hear that, let's say you have no grid whatsoever for like supernatural things.
And I didn't have a grid for that. That's
Like,
not how I grew up.
you immediately go to, it's probably some crazy guy who just told this crazy story, and it's like, no,
So
he is
even
extremely
keel.
solid. He's like me when he's extremely solid. He's a lot like me. No. And
Humble
personality,
too.
he's very like stoic, and very like, if it's truth,
He
he's
could
going
be
after
weird,
it.
but
He's,
yeah.
from my experience. And
Yeah,
so it's like,
he's very steady.
when
He's
I
steady.
hear that story, and who I know Caleb to be, I'm like, oh, it's like 100% legit. And this he
We were in Mexico, and there was 2 kids. One kid had their little brother with them, and or like their sibling. I don't know if it's boy or girl, but had their sibling with them. The kid had Down syndrome, and Caleb prayed for this kid, and the kid walked away without Down syndrome. Like, kid you not, like physically, face structure changed. Like, kid you not. Yeah. So this is just one of the kids in this group. There was like 10 of us. But they would all, for the summer, we'd go out as 16-year-olds for mission trips, and they would be gone for like 2 months, and we'd come back and they'd have all these stories. And I was just like, I just need to be a part of this. And so I went on a trip to Mexico, and it was super cool. That's where the kid got healed of Down syndrome. I wasn't there, but I heard about it. And I was such a brat. I was just so angry. I was just like an angry kid at that point, still healing. But I know I was still healing at the time. I was a mess. Okay. Anyways, but I was just.
Oh, I thought you meant now. I thought you meant now.
I was like, what?
Okay, great. I would like to say I'm doing okay. So
You're not an angry person.
no, I'm not an angry person anymore. Yeah. So but it was just funny because like back then versus now, it just makes me laugh. I don't recognize myself in some ways in that way. So anyways, yeah, so the trip was just super cool, and then rolling into and just it laid a lot of like foundations for like walking with the Lord in a way that I hadn't before. Anyways, so the following summer I went to Uganda for a month, and that trip changed my life. It was awesome. You had to go to, it was through it's funny, there's a lot of controversy now. They just came out with a documentary, but it was through Teen Mania, like Global Expeditions Teen Mania, and they're the people who were doing Acquire of the Fire at the time.
Okay.
So say what you will, I had a great experience. So but you had to go to this week-long like training, and then you went to the country you were going to for a month or so. So went to this week-long training, and at that training there was another girl there who, this was the first time I think I'd been introduced to the concept of like prophecy, but she prayed for me, and she was like, I get the sense that you're going to go on this trip, you're going to run into a blind man, a baby that won't stop crying, and a woman who can't stand up, or a woman who can't walk. I'm forgetting the technical term for that, and you're going to sing over them, and they're going to be healed. And I was like, okay, like I didn't believe her. I was like, Um, anyways, so we go to Uganda and we're doing our thing, and we come across I think at the time it was a baby that wouldn't stop crying. And I tell you what, I looked at that kid with so much fear. I guess in the back of my
It's
head, I
happening.
knew. Yeah, I was like panicked about it. I was like,
What
oh
do
my
I
God.
sing?
Yeah, it was like it was tripping me out, but I was like, this is that thing that chick talked about. And I was like, oh my God. Anyway, so the baby was crying, and anyways, I sing for this baby, and this baby stops crying. Okay, low stakes, right? You sing for a baby, stop crying, whatever. So later we run into the blind man, and he was actually one of our translators, and he had like a little bit of he had a little bit of sight, but he had like this thing where his eyes would shake constantly. I'm forgetting what it's called, but they couldn't see detail.
Yeah.
Anyways, so a bunch of us were praying for him, and I was singing scripture. And again, I'm 16 in Uganda, like by myself. There were no parents. Um, and he and we were like, okay, Emma, would you, I said Emmanuel, but Emma, and he was like, would you read this scripture? And so he starts like trying to bank out the details of this, and he goes, do you want me to read what I remember? Because at that point he had repeated it so many times. He was like, do you want me to read what I can remember, or do you want me to read what I can see? We were like, read what you can see. And so he starts to bring his head back, and he's reading, and he stops and he starts to cry, and he's like, I can see for the first time, like ever,
Wow.
everything clear. And he looks at my friend and he goes, I can see my white shirt and the reflection of the black dot in your eye. And I go, it's called the pupil. And he goes, the pupil. And so it was like, that was super cool. And
I was a little
then,
worried there when you made that much eye contact with Steve. I didn't know what was going to
oh
happen.
yeah, nothing.
for a
No,
second.
no, that'll happen.
That's not happening, I guess.
To be fair, when I went to kiss her, I was going for the cheek, but you turned, and I'm like, well,
Okay,
Just own it, man. Just own it.
yeah, there you go. Hey, so, anyway, so later on that trip, we were in the bush of Gulu, and there was a woman there named Mama Lucy, and Mama Lucy was 86, and I think for 16 years of her life, do you remember like Coney 2012? Do you remember that whole?
Yeah. Yeah. I marched
so
with there was some organization that was super against Coney.
Invisible
Yeah, Invisible Children. I did
Oh,
like
yeah,
4
yeah,
marches
yeah.
with them. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah. So they I remember like chalking up my whole school. Like I was like, yeah. And then the guy like came through and they like just hosed it down, and it all went away before the next day. I was super bummed about it. Anyways, I was a little
should have used paint.
justice. Yeah. Anyways, yeah, that was graffiti. Yeah. So, anyways, so Joseph Kony, during his reign in Uganda, actually went through her community and was cutting out the tongues of women, and like all types of like atrocities, anything you can think of, stealing children and making them child soldiers, like this whole thing. During that time, this woman, Mama Lucy, when we met her, she was 86, but for 16 years during his reign, she had an underground church, and she was like rescuing people and running a church in her home while this was going on. So super unique woman. But she had maybe it wasn't 16 years. She had been lame for 16 years. Like her legs had stopped working at some point. And so I've got a picture, I'll send it to you. But she like her legs were all like atrophied, and we didn't see her get healed, but the locals came back the next day after we had prayed, and I sang for her, or sang over her, I guess you could say. But we didn't see it, but the locals came the next day and told us Mama Lucy has had the best night of sleep in the last 16 years, and today she's up and walking. And so that was super cool. Anyways, but just like such a cool legacy, and then like just being able to meet her, like that's a believer right there.
Yeah.
And then
That would mark you.
she was healed. So so that marked me. That trip marked me forever. And there was a bunch of other crazy things that happened on that trip, but those were the really stuck out. Anyways, so get back, and at some point in my time with this church in LA, I was introduced to human trafficking, and I forget her name. I think it's Rachel Adams maybe, but she's a survivor an adult survivor, and she came and spoke at her church, and I was just like, human trafficking, that's an issue. And I always had this huge justice thing in me, but I was like, I'm going to do
Yeah.
something about that. And
Yeah.
when it came to after high school, what are you going to do with your life? What do you want to do? I was like, I have no idea. And I like the thought of that was super stressful. And but I kept hearing about this ministry school in Redding, California, and they teach you to do the things that we were doing in Africa, but all the time. Like that's how I was.
Mhm.
It was pitched to me, and I was like, I want to check this place out. And so, right after high school, I graduated and went straight into ministry school. So I was a
Christian
baby.
Hogwarts.
Yeah, Christian Hogwarts. Yeah. So, I was a absolute baby, but went and did ministry school and had just an incredible experience there. And then I at some point during school, Benji Nolo from Exodus Cry came and spoke, and he was talking about just the children of human trafficking, and it marked me forever. I was like, no, I'm gonna do something about that. And I'd always had this like dream in me of like once I like really understood the Lord and started doing ministry, I was like, one day I'm gonna start homes for women and children in Africa, Asia, and America. And I always laugh because I've never even been to Asia, but I'm like gonna be there one day. So
Yet.
yeah. So anyways, to sum that all up, I just knew I would do something. I just didn't know what it would be. And I mentioned it when we first started, but then school ended. I was like, what's next? And found my way up at the boarding school, and we're caught up. So
Yeah. Well, that's
that's
awesome.
my story.
So then why don't we're definitely have to do maybe 3 or 4 more of these.
Oh, we're ramblers.
No, it's good.
We're those people.
I know.
But I want to hear, I guess, for now, how we'll get into the tail end of all this is Cedar Refuge. So it sounds like both of you, obviously, you have a passion for youth, you have a passion for young people, have been on this course of specifically working with kids coming out of trafficking. I know you guys are really gearing it towards boys, which is super interesting because I do think that's sort of a missed demographic when we talk about the trafficking
Oh yeah.
issue, right? We hear a lot about, and not to minimize either side of it, but you don't generally hear a lot about trafficked boys,
Yeah.
and it is a major problem.
There are currently no homes, restorative care homes for boys that have been trafficked in the entire United States of America.
So tell us a bit about the vision and what you guys are building, and we'll talk a bit after that of how people can support you and give you money, because that's what we need.
Yeah, that's real. Yeah, so now you can kind of see our lives melded together in a really unique way. She grew up in an entirely different background than me, and then we met out here, and obviously my conservative background, and then coming to a place of that understands the supernatural, and I would say works and thrives in like living and working alongside the Holy Spirit. It's just a huge change and adjustment for me, and I know my life and who I am has been for her.
Mhm.
And so it's been this beautiful, because we love each other, it's been this beautiful like mixing of two worlds, and it feels like it's prepared us for something really big. And on our second date, we both shared our dreams. I think that you're the one that started the conversation. It was like, what are your dreams? What do you want to do?
Mhm.
And I remember in the car, we were driving back from our second date from the coast, and we just shared our dreams, and they perfectly lined up. It was, she shared what she had already shared about starting homes. And I remember saying, I want to start something that's working specifically with demographics that are underserved or not served. And I know the Lord's called me to work with boys, and that's been that way since I was offered that teaching job. And so tying back to, my heart was always like, who are the most hurting and who are the most underserved? That's where I want to go. And so the two areas that we had that second date. Then we've been married for 5 years. We had a 3-year-old. So it's been a long time since the second date. But it was very clear for Brandon about a year and a half ago, it's time to start. And so she actually started without me. And she started building, researching, diving in. I mean, there's so much. Anybody that started a nonprofit, it is a ton of work. And
Oh yeah.
it seems on the surface like it's not. It is no different than starting a business. And
Wow.
and
Yeah.
I would say
I would
has
say
unique
more challenging in
has
some
more
ways.
unique challenges for sure.
Yeah, because like, where do you get your money from?
Yeah. And
Yeah.
and so he
You got
started
a lot of
diving into
criteria
that.
you got to fit in and everything, and
Yeah.
here
Because like
too.
if you have a product, you're selling a product. There's
Yeah. Yeah.
we're not, you know what I mean? It looks different.
We are. We
It
are.
looks
And
different.
that's yeah.
Yeah.
But you started that a year and a half ago and was working on building this thing. And
Yeah, real quick. So the since our time at that boarding school, I think in 2020, kind of everything shifted, and we started doing other things, and the school ended up relocating out of state. And so since I think 2022, maybe I've been working with a nonprofit. So they essentially, if when a child who's been trafficked is recovered, they will try to figure out what happens to this child next. What does their healing journey look like? And so they'll get a phone call and we'll say, okay, we've got this partner home with beds essentially in this place, and this place, and this place is best suited to their specific and individual needs. And so we will place the child in the best healing program for their needs, and then they fund their care. And so I've been working with them for a long time now. We did stuff prior to 2022 when I got hired on, but and I've been doing their marketing and communication stuff. But so let me backtrack a little bit. Work for an organization, and they got a call in 2022 about a 6-year-old girl, and it revealed the issue of where does a 6-year-old go? Because we have programs that we partner with, but all those programs are geared towards kids that are 10 and up. But kids that are under that age are getting trafficked, but there's no outside of foster care or CPS, the system, right? It's like, where do these kids go? And a lot of the systems we have in place aren't set up to handle those individual needs that sometimes kids that have been trafficked can display and manifest. And so these kids there's a cascade of just events that that set them up on a really rough trajectory for life. And so the issue of like, where does a 6-year-old go, like really burdened me. And then we've always known that there's a huge gap in care for boys. One, people just don't recognize that there's a need. Like the classic, like, let's say there's a creepy teacher that was approaching a girl. People are ready to hang this teacher. But if a female teacher has harmed a boy, it's like, oh, that boy is so lucky. There's a huge gap in recognizing the child's actually a victim regardless of their gender. And so it's kind of across the board. And then there's an issue with like stigmas and identification, is people don't know to ask, like, did something happen to you when it comes to a boy? Gender stigmas. Yeah. So that just really bothered me, and just recognizing the gap of care. And so I think it was March 2 years ago. No, March 2 years ago. But we became aware of another situation involving multiple kids under the age of, it's really, really dark. So viewer discretion, I guess. But essentially these children, it was like a farming breeding program for children into trafficking. And same, obviously horrendous on so many levels, but the same issue revealed itself again. It's like, where do younger kids go? Like, there's nothing for like, these kids are literally undocumented. There's like, where do these kids go? And I was driving one day and I had my daughter in the back seat, and I was just like, the reality of there are kids her age like that this is happening to. And I was like, God, if you say, like, if you pay for it, I'd say yes. And so it was like every door opened after that. And I came home and I was like, Steve, this is what I'm thinking. And so, and I had been I had been having dreams, like getting woken up in the middle of the night with like literally visions of like a ranch and like where all these children would be. And so
there's so many details in
yeah, so many
that
things.
area. But so the two populations that we want to serve are underserved when it comes to like long-term placement. A lot of these kids, obviously, because of their needs, their needs are being met in various ways, but it's not consistent over a long period of time. And so what's unique about what we're wanting to do is we're wanting to serve these two populations in a more holistic long-term way that can create like lasting change and help them recover from years of trauma potentially.
Yeah, boys 6 to 18, and then girls 6 to about 10 is our.
So yeah, and there'll be two different programs structured entirely different on a large property. We want to use like animal care and gardens and bring in nature as much as we can. Because of our work with teens and at-risk teens, that is a demographic that puts us in a similar arena. But obviously, there's not many places we can just call up and be like, "Hey, what's your experience? How can we help figure this out?" We're kind of
Uncharted.
We're kind of going into our uncharted waters. There are some programs that have popped up and ran specifically for boys that were long term, and we're in the process of building. So we're in process of reaching out to those people, doing tours and learning as we build the program. But we have to scale because of the size of what we're wanting to do. We have to scale it like a business, and so working through phases as we go. We're not in a position now where we can just purchase a 250 to 1,000 acre property and just start rolling. And even if we did have the property, there's a lot of work that needs to be done to create something that's sustainable, for one. And that's something that's really important to us and maybe unique with us with nonprofit work that we have done and working with organizations. It's a lot of these places shut down because of funding. And so our goal is to create something that is self-sustaining so that down the road, when we do have bigger donors or people that put money into a fund that we can use, we want that to be temporary. We don't want it to be where we're constantly having to pull from people and ask the same people for money. We want their money to make money. And so a way that we want to do that is create self-sustaining businesses that can generate funds that actually fund this project, because we want to create a model that works on its own and is effective, because we're not talking about 20 boys in the US that have been trafficked. We're talking about thousands. And if nothing has been created that works, we need to do that. We need to create something that works and then replicate it. And if it looks like a franchise that's handed to people that we trust, and they can start one in Missouri and one in Florida and one, great. Like, that is our goal. And if we're going to make, we don't want to make a small dent. We want to jump right in, create something, put in a ton of work now to create something that's sustainable. So it's a huge project. You can imagine if you do run a business or you have started a nonprofit, the amount, like hundreds of hours into business plans and figuring out like our path, and a lot of strategy goes into scaling and the challenge of like, we have a relationship, when do we pull on that relationship? Are we too late on that and like all of those things. So we're figuring that out. We're in that process of building and creating. So right now, as far as our needs, is one, skilled people who are willing to donate time and helping us is huge. So when it comes to the legal, like in the legal area, we need
the world's best nonprofit lawyer.
We need an excellent lawyer. We're taking on a lot of things with a lot of risk. And having somebody that we can run things by it would be huge. That would be, and we've been praying for a month or so. and we have an accountant, but people who are skilled in business that are able to give advice or we can run things through. And then obviously we need money. We need Brandon and I's time. Right now we're doing so much. We're up in the morning and until 10 to midnight every night and raising a 3-year-old in the process and
working.
working
on top of
like
that,
it's
yeah.
in order to sustain ourselves. So
We need to
we're
hire
going nonstop. And so being able to free up our time would be huge.
quit our jobs to a degree so that we can put all of our time to this. That's huge. Yeah.
Would be huge. And so that's really what phase we're in now is we are the people that need to make this happen and we need to free up that time. And so
Prayer. That's huge. Huge.
yeah, huge.
Huge.
Yeah,
And
absolutely.
like, no, there's like the cliche, like, oh, pray for us. Like, no. Pray for us.
Yeah.
Like
No,
literally
you guys
when we
need
went
it.
Yeah,
Yeah.
when we went public with this, like within the week, like I got
Crazy.
approached by a witch, like
It was
weird, like, great,
which is a
ridiculous
whole
stuff.
nother, that's a whole nother.
a whole other story,
Not
but I'm
surprising.
like, yeah, I'm like,
Yeah.
you know, we need prayer, like
Yeah.
prayer covering. Like, please be praying for us. Like,
So and that one's huge and the Lord will provide.
yeah.
Prayer. And what's your current financial goal in this phase?
So our current phase, we would love by the end of 2026 to have raised 300,000. Now obviously that's not 300,000 for Brandon and Steve's.
No,
No,
Yeah.
we're
that's a bunch of stuff.
on the record for next year are multiple events that are planned. We're running galas and fundraisers in order to help meet that goal.
Mhm.
And so it's and all of that money is obviously funding future phases.
Yeah, and another staff as well.
But I would say even sooner than that. So that's a little bit further out. Even sooner than that, our mark is 75,000
Mhm.
that we're trying to raise to free up her and I's time to buy us a year's worth of work plus the funding we need to run some of these events. So 75,000 is really what we're going for in a shorter time frame.
Yeah, and then long term, we're looking at millions. So
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
And
the
Yes.
property purchase alone,
All of it.
the property purchase and the building it out the way we need it to. Yeah, we're in the millions for that alone. Yeah.
And you guys will be in Northern California still, right? For the first,
Correct.
at least for the first
Yeah.
location.
And that's a
Yeah.
whole nother podcast, bro.
Yeah. Well, I said we got to
I'm-
do 3, 4, 5, 6. However many.
I
we need
can
to
tell
do.
already. I can tell already people are listening like California. Okay.
Oh, man.
Interesting.
Yeah.
I would love to dive into that.
Yeah.
It would be very
Let's
exciting.
definitely get it on the
Yeah.
calendar for follow-up. We'll
Okay.
season 2. Stay tuned.
Yeah.
How can people give? How can people stay on top of what you guys are doing? Social media, website, all that sort of stuff.
Yeah. So our website is thecedarrefuge.org. And then to donate, thecedarrefuge.org/donate. You can follow us on social media. That's Cedar Refuge. And then I think that's the best.
And if you want more information, please reach out.
Yeah.
We do Zoom calls. We're more than happy. And even if it's like, I don't have anything to donate, but I have questions, like we love,
Mhm.
you can tell we love talking. So
Yeah.
we love sharing the vision and involving people in the process and educating and all of it.
We might have to do like a webinar or something.
Yeah.
Or like-
Yeah, we could do something like
live or
that.
something.
If there's interest, if you get interest. But also if someone does feel like they want to give a bit larger donation, I think the easiest way is to send us a check. And so they can reach out and email. We can give them our address. It might be on the website. I actually don't know. So PO box, we should probably put it on there. But yeah, feel free to reach out. We can do it that way. That way we don't get hit with tons of fees.
Yeah, those fees are killer. I think
Are they?
we've, in our 2 years of being a nonprofit, 4 years of being a business, we've probably changed like 3 different giving platforms because of
Because of the
Wow.
fees.
fees. Yeah,
Where'd you land?
we're on Give Butter right now.
Okay.
Okay.
I've heard good things. Yeah.
We'll have to
It's-
chat.
I'm really enjoying it. Yeah, we can
Yeah.
we can talk more about that. But man, we didn't even get to talk Bigfoot or any of the weird stuff. So
I
that's
know!
gonna be the next one
fun
too.
stuff.
But this was great. This was fun. Man, I love your stories and how clearly the Lord had his hand on both of you and then interwove both of those stories together and what you guys are doing with Cedar Refuge and loving the ones that no one's loving right now. That's
Mm.
beautiful. So we always like to wrap up Sacred and Strange with, would you guys just pray for us, pray for our viewers, and we'll have you guys back for sure soon.
Yes. Yeah. Let's do it. You ready?
Cool.
Yeah.
Yeah. Jesus. Jesus, you're amazing. And we love you. We love you. You are awesome. Yeah. Yeah, we call on you, and you are Lord, you're Savior, you are holy. There's nothing else we want more than to be in your presence and to love you and to walk with you. Thank you for being with us, choosing to be with us and live in us, Holy Spirit. Yeah, that's all that matters, God, is that we're with you. I want nothing else. And I pray that, God, for the viewers that are listening and anyone that feels touched by you. Yeah, God, I just pray that you fill them with peace in whatever they're facing today. Whatever struggles they have or big, huge mountains they feel like they have, Lord, I pray that you give them peace and they feel your presence and your fullness. And that experience that I had with you first, that I remember along the road, I just pray that encounter for people who know you but don't know you. I just pray that encounter for them, that you would reveal yourself in a way that is all encompassing. It embraces their all of everything that they are and have experienced, and that they would feel your peace.
Yeah, Jesus, thank you so much for people who are just invested in what you do and what you're interested in, Lord. Jesus, I pray that you would breathe into people's dreams, that the things that feel like they may have died, or the things they want to do but aren't happening, Lord, I pray that you would reignite hope and remind them that nothing is wasted. Yeah. We love you. We trust you. You know, you're so good. And thank you for trusting us with this.
Yeah.
In your name.
Amen.
Amen. Hey, thanks, guys. Love you lots.
Yeah.
You'll be back, and we'll get to the weird.
Yep. We love you.